Jannik Sinner beat Daniil Medvedev to win Beijing, and it was the most tactical match I have ever seen him play. I'm going to get into details in the analysis to follow. This was a massive win for Sinner that kind of attacks the two main criticisms that one may have for Jannik Sinner in his career thus far. The first one is that he had a lot of negative head-to-heads with all of the best players who aren't named Carlos Alcaraz. The second thing is he only has plan A. He doesn't have variety, right? And this was a match where he beats Medvedev for the first time to reverse what was an 0-6 head-to-head, and he does it by showcasing more variety than he probably ever has in a big match before. Just to kind of cover my bases, this is what the head-to-heads look like for Jannik. Coming into this match, 0-6 Medvedev, 0-3 Djokovic, 1-4 Zverev, 2-5 Tsitsipas. He came in 5-19 against top 5 opponents. 3 of those 5 wins were against Alcaraz. 1 was against Fritz, who was really only in the top 5 for like a moment there. The other was against Tsitsipas. So these wins were not coming all that often. When they were, it was usually against Alcaraz. It's a big one, to get one over a rival in Medvedev who you hadn't beaten before. Let's talk about the previous 2 meetings this year, Sinner, Medvedev. The first one came in Rotterdam, and I thought in a lot of ways Jannik played well. His level was good. His performance was high, but he didn't play a smart match. He played the match like he had no idea who was on the other side of the net. There were no tactical adjustments to account for what Daniil Medvedev does on a tennis court. And Medvedev, he's just too good to play him like any other player. You have to do some things to disrupt him that maybe require kind of leaving your comfort zone. In Miami, Sinner really wasn't at his best physically in that match, and he suffered because of that. The long rallies were really taking everything out of his legs. He said he woke up feeling sick. His semifinal against Alcaraz in Miami was a lot more taxing. It was a 3-setter, whereas this one was a straight setter. Again, same semifinal opponent, kind of funny there. So yeah, big shot tolerance gap for Medvedev in Miami. Backhand to backhand superiority for Medvedev in both Rotterdam and Miami. But in Miami, Sinner made Medvedev hit a lot more forehands. Medvedev had a really great forehand day to kind of mitigate the effects of that adjustment. So that's kind of my rundown on the Miami match and the Rotterdam match. Coming into this final, he said something very interesting as soon as he beat Alcaraz, and Medvedev had already beaten Zverev, and Jannik was aware of that, so he knew who his opponent was going to be in the final, and he said, basically, I'm going to change some stuff and see if it works. He said that right after beating Alcaraz. He said, in the final against Medvedev, I'm gonna try some new stuff, and if it works, that's great. If it doesn't work, I'll have to try something new the next time. Do you know how many players don't say that? Do you know how many players say, I'm just going to, play my game and compete as hard as I can and hope that's enough? A lot of players say that. So I gave a lot of credit to Jannik I'll say this, I didn't give him credit, but my interest was piqued when I heard that, and now it's okay, let's go see it happen. So let's talk about what he changed. First, serve direction. Jannik found, and I'm surprised it took this long. Don't get me wrong, I am surprised. But he kind of figured out you got to serve wide on the deuce side when you're playing Medvedev. And gradually he's made that change. But, in Rotterdam, he went 44% wide, 6% body, 50% tee. So he went majority tee in Rotterdam. I questioned that after the match. I said, why go to the stronger return, move him to the middle of the court, He's the hardest guy on tour to ace, but he's the easiest guy on tour to pull off the court. So pull him off the court and attack him from there. Now, hopefully you're serving volleying ideally, but if not, you're, at least hitting into the open court and coming in or something, right? Pull him off the court, serve wide. In Miami, he did a little better, and he went 50-50 split, 47% wide, 47% tee, 5% body. All right, a little better, but still, serve wide more. In this match, I thought he finally got to where it should be against Daniil Medvedev, 60% wide, 7% body, 33% tee. So, really favoring the wide serve. You can't go there every time. You still want to keep the guy honest, but more often than not, you should be going wide against Daniil Medvedev, and this was the first match, at least this year, that he actually did that. And then there's the serve and volley. He incorporated it. He finally kind of was willing to serve and volley a lot against Medvedev. And when he wasn't serve and volleying, he was also coming in behind his +1 balls, which is, it's another way to get it done. You don't have to attack Medvedev's return position exclusively with serve and volley. The point is, you get to the net before Medvedev's defense is allowed to kind of neutralize to a point where you no longer have that court position edge or that advantage in the rally, because that +1 ball is probably going to be your best chance to hit an approach shot. You probably have Daniil in a compromised position. You probably have a weaker incoming ball. So let's go. Get it done now, because once Medvedev neutralizes and now we're in a baseline rally, one of the best in the world. You don't want to be in that position. And that's why you come in on the +1. That is why you serve and volley. And if you dig into the stats for this match, where Sinner created his advantage was in the 0-4 shot rallies. So let's break that down further in the 0-4 segment. Let's talk about 0-2 first. Unreturned serves make up the majority of that segment of points, right? Unreturned serves were advantage Medvedev 22-17, but double faults, which I guess are 0-shot rallies, that was 4-0 for Sinner's advantage. So let's call it even, right? On the 1-2 shot rallies, you have Medvedev getting more unreturned serves, but double faulting more. Let's call it even. By the way, the fact that it was that close, though, on the unreturned serves has a lot to do with Sinner serve and volleying. Because, and we see this all the time, Medvedev missed a lot of returns that were clearly forced by the forward pressure and feeling the need to hit a great return. Clearly. Medvedev just doesn't, there's no way Sinner gets 17 unreturned serves on Medvedev without the serve and volley. Not a chance. But what I'm telling you here is that it wasn't the 1-2 shot rallies. It was the third shot. The third shot is where Sinner separated himself on serve. That's the +1 ball, which if you're serving volleying, it's a volley. And if you have a big forehand like Sinner, and there were even some instances of really good +1 backhand success, that is really where you are doing massive damage and, applying forward pressure, getting those forced errors, getting those missed Medvedev passing shots, hitting some winners. So third shot finishes on serve, according to Infosys statistics, were Sinner 20, Medvedev 9. Doubled them up. That is where you get the 0-4 shot advantage for Sinner, which was 52 points to 39 points. 52-39. Want to know what happened when it was 5+? 5+ was dead even. 31-31. That's why I'm honing in on what was happening in these short points, because statistically that was the difference in the match. And I credit the net rushing. I massively credit the Sinner net rushing and serving out wide more. Sinner at net. So you take the serve and volleys, you take the serve +1s. Sinner ends up being at net 33 times. He wins 22 of those points. That's I think that's 70%. But I wanted to also check something, put the net points in a rate, okay? So let me kind of just show my work. I've told you that Sinner was coming to net more in this match than he had previously, but let me give you the actual numbers here. I took total points in the match as the denominator and Sinner net points as the numerator. And that gives me Sinner's net point rate. In Rotterdam, 16%. In Miami, 13%. In Beijing, 22%. This was the first time that he was over 20%, and it was, It was 6% higher than his previous highest this year. You know, I didn't go further back into the pre-2023 Medvedev-Sinner matches, but, you know, I think that wouldn't have been much of a help anyway, considering Jannik really is the best version of himself this year. So why was he ready to do that? Again, I like to stress this. Players have been coming in on Medvedev for 2-3 years now. It's pretty well documented that some of these plays are available and that you're going to, if able, you're going to want to get in against Medvedev as soon as possible, especially behind your serve. I don't know that Jannik has been confident enough in his skill development in that area to do it. And, you know, we saw in Miami, we saw some botched volleys. We saw him get up there in some big spots and screw up. And there have been other moments this year where we've talked about this with Sinner. Bad drop shots, poor volleys. And what have I always said? I've said from start to finish with Sinner that, okay, yes, in the short term, there might be issues executing those things, but in the long term, it's going to help him, because the only way he gets to a point where he's able to win a match like this, where he executed fairly well, except for his horrendous overheads, where I think he missed 4, clearly had the yips on the overheads. So, you know, could have been better in net points won if he hit overheads better. But on the volleys, he was really very solid. Very. And that's the hard work paying off. And that's the open-mindedness paying off. It's ultimately what I've always loved about Jannik and why I've always felt confident in his career and the things that he's going to do. All right, other than that, I mean, meat and potatoes stuff. Sinner's forehand was easily the best ground stroke on the court. I don't want to be too hyperbolic. I mean, because Medvedev did play pretty well off the ground. But I just felt, you know, with Jannik, the consistency that he brought on the forehand was exceptional. It's always going to be tough to beat him when he's not making ground stroke errors. If he's going to be as consistent as he was in this match off the ground, it's always going to be a problem, because you know he's bringing big power. You know he's creating damage. So if you're playing Sinner, I mean, you're just praying for some misses. And look, it's not like he normally doesn't give you some. This match, especially on the forehand, was particularly consistent, which certainly made it difficult for Medvedev. And, you know, just physically, he was definitely more up for matching Medvedev on the rally tolerance compared to Miami, certainly. And that's why, you know, you see those 5+ rallies tied 31-31. In Miami, Jannik got dominated in the long exchanges because he just he wasn't able to hang in there because his legs didn't have enough. So this was a much better job by Sinner, actually sometimes winning those kind of shot tolerance exchanges from neutral and just being, you know, not first to miss. Sinner actually coming out on the right end of some of those types of points. That is an area where, you know, you'd expect Medvedev to certainly get the better of it. And maybe he did, but it wasn't dominant. And that's great for Jannik because he found his advantages in other areas. I'll also just say the new service motion for Sinner, I like it. I think this is the one. I think he can finally stop changing it, finally stop tinkering. It looks really good to me. It looks like the best version of Jannik Sinner's serve. And, you know, he put 68% in this final. And he won 82% of his first serve points, which is exceptional. He won 71% of his second serve points, and he did not double fault. He was hitting his second serve really, really well. Although Medvedev is another improvement that Daniil can make. I mean, maybe sometimes you want to attack the second serve a little bit more. I don't know. Speaking of Medvedev, I know I've kind of focused this whole thing on Jannik. Frankly, I don't have that much to say about Daniil. I don't think he played badly. I don't. I thought the serve was good. I think he tapped into the ground stroke aggression nicely. It wasn't one of those Medvedev performances. And when he struggled this year, a lot of the times this has been the issue where, he's super passive and he just isn't really, creating any damage from the back and not kind of finding penetration with his forehand. No, I thought he was very aggressive here. If there's one critique, I do think he missed some key neutral backhands, which is strange to see. And obviously, it's another example of his return strategy being neutralized. Just a guy having a lot of success on serve and volley. I know I haven't gotten too much into the minutia of, the match itself and how it played out. Obviously, 2 tie breaks. There were no breaks of serve. But I thought, Sinner was applying the majority of the pressure throughout both sets, and neither of the tie breaks were close. Both of them were 7-2. I don't really want to get into the specifics of the tie break because, I think, everything that I talked about, the forehand consistency for Sinner, the serve and volleying, the +1 net approaching, these were the keys, hanging in some of those long rallies. This is where he was able to get it done and crack the code and break this 0-6 head-to-head. And by the way, it is probably the most impressive. I know it's not the biggest. It's not a Masters 1000 title like he won earlier in Toronto, but it has to be the most impressive title run of Jannik Sinner's career, and this breakout 2023 season continues. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.